Commander Lee Tae-ho stood at the viewing deck of Galactic Trade Station Nexus 7, watching ships from 100 different worlds dock at the massive space station. His hands were steady, but his heart beat faster than usual. This was humanity's first official meeting with the Galactic Council, and everything had to go perfectly. "Commander, the transport is ready," said Dr. Kim So-ra, walking up beside him. She carried a tablet full of notes about alien biology. Her job was to help humans understand the strange creatures they were about to meet. "How are you feeling about this?" asked Captain Park Jin-woo, the team's security chief. He looked calm, but Tae-ho knew Jin-woo was always ready for trouble. That was his job. "Nervous," Tae-ho admitted, "but excited too. We're making history. Here." The fourth member of their team, interpreter Choi Min-ji, joined them. She had spent years learning alien languages and customs. "I've been reviewing the protocols again," she said. "There are so many rules about who we can talk to and how." The four humans took a transport shuttle to the main diplomatic area of the station. The hallways were huge, built to fit creatures of all sizes. Some aliens walked on two legs like humans. Others floated in the air or crawled along the walls. The diversity was amazing and a little scary. Their first official meeting was with Ambassador Kethmore of the Zephyrian Council. He looked like a tall, thin human but with blue skin and large black eyes. He greeted them politely but seemed worried about something. "Welcome to Nexus 7, Kethmore said in perfect English. "Your species has impressed many with your determination to join our community." "We're honored to be here," Tae-ho replied. "Humanity looks forward to peaceful cooperation with all species." Kethmore's expression grew serious. "There is something important you must understand. Not all species here are safe for yours to interact with." Dr. So-ra leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "The Velthari delegation," Kethmore said quietly. "You must stay away from them at all costs, especially their princess, Nixara." "Why?" asked Min-ji. Kethmore looked around nervously, as if afraid someone might hear. "They are energy vampires. They feed on life force through touch. Your species lacks the psychic defenses necessary to survive contact with them. They have consumed entire civilizations." Jin-woo's hand moved closer to his weapon. "Are they dangerous to the station?" "They are contained by special barriers and protocols," Kethmore explained. "But if you get too close, they will drain your life away in seconds. The princess is the most powerful of all. She is death itself." The humans exchanged worried looks. This was not something they had prepared for. "How do we recognize them?" Tae-ho asked. "You will know," Kethmore said darkly. "All other species avoid them completely. You will see them sitting alone, isolated from everyone else. Do not let curiosity kill you, Commander. Promise me you will stay away." Tae-ho nodded, but something about the ambassador's words bothered him. The way he described the Velthari made them sound more like prisoners than delegates. Later that day, during the opening ceremony, hundreds of alien species gathered in a massive hall. Tae-ho sat with his team in the section reserved for new members. Speeches were given in languages that sounded like music, growling, or electronic beeps. Min-ji whispered translations when she could. That's when Tae-ho saw her. In a far corner of the hall, completely alone, sat a figure that was clearly not human but somehow familiar. She had pale skin that seemed to glow softly, long dark hair and features that were beautiful in an otherworldly way. She wore elegant robes that looked like they were made of starlight. But what struck Tae-ho most was not her appearance. It was the way she sat. Her posture spoke of deep loneliness. She watched the other delegates with what looked like longing, not hunger. When other aliens walked past her section, they moved quickly and avoided looking at her. "That's her," whispered Jin-woo. "That has to be the vampire princess." Dr. So-ra studied the figure with scientific interest. "She doesn't look dangerous. She looks sad." "Looks can be deceiving," Jin-woo warned. "Remember what the ambassador said." But Tae-ho couldn't stop watching her. Something about the situation felt wrong. Here was someone who was clearly intelligent and possibly important, being treated like a disease. The other aliens didn't just avoid her. They acted like she didn't exist at all. During a break in the ceremony, most delegates moved to a reception area. The princess remained in her seat, still alone. Taeho watched as a small alien child wandered too close to her section. The child's parents rushed over in panic and pulled the child away, scolding it harshly. The princess's face showed pain at this reaction. Not anger or hunger, just deep, quiet pain. "Commander," Minji said softly. "You're staring." "I'm thinking," Taeho replied. "Something doesn't add up here." "What do you mean?" asked Sora. "Look at her. Really look. Does she seem like a monster? To you?" Jinwoo frowned. "That's exactly what makes her dangerous. Predators often look harmless." But Taeho shook his head. "No, I don't think so. Look at how she watches the others. She's not hunting, she's hoping." "Hoping for what?" "For someone to treat her like a person instead of a monster." The other humans looked at their commander with growing concern. They could see him making a decision that might be very dangerous. "Taeho," Sora said carefully. "You're not thinking of approaching her, are you?" He was quiet for a long moment, watching the lonely figure across the hall. Every instinct told him to stay safe, to follow the warnings, to avoid the risk. But there was something else, something very human, that told him this was wrong. "Maybe I am," he said finally. "That's suicide," Jinwoo said bluntly. "Maybe," Taeho agreed. "But what if it's not? What if she's just as trapped by fear as everyone else is? What if nobody has ever tried to treat her with basic dignity?" "And if you're wrong?" Minji asked. Taeho looked at his team, his friends, and smiled. "Then I guess you'll have to tell Earth that their first ambassador was too stubborn to follow good advice." The ceremony was resuming. Delegates were returning to their seats. But Taeho stood up and began walking across the hall toward the isolated corner where the alien vampire princess sat alone with her loneliness. Behind him, his team watched in horror and fascination as their commander did what no one had dared to do in centuries. He was going to find out what happened when someone chose connection over fear. Taeho walked across the great hall with steady steps, even though his heart was beating like a drum. Around him, conversations stopped. Alien delegates turned to stare. Some made sounds of alarm. Others backed away as if his intention might somehow make him dangerous too. The princess, Nixara, looked up as he approached. Her eyes were large and dark, like the space between stars. For a moment she seemed confused. No one had walked toward her in so long that she had forgotten what it looked like. "Stop," called out Ambassador Kethmore from across the room. "Human, you do not understand what you are doing." Security forces from several species began moving toward them, but they kept their distance. Even they were afraid to get too close to the Velthari princess. Taeho ignored them all. He walked right up to where Nixara sat and, before anyone could stop him, leaned down close to her. The whole hall fell silent. He whispered softly so only she could hear. "You look tired of being feared. Want to grab some coffee? I hear humans make it differently than most species." Nixara stared at him in complete shock. Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. Around them, the tension in the room was so thick it could be cut with a knife. "You," she finally whispered back, her voice like music made of shadows. "You should be dead. My aura should have drained you by now." Taeho straightened up and smiled. "Maybe it's trying to, but humans are stubborn like that. We don't give up easily, not our energy, not our lives, and definitely not on people who might need a friend." The princess stood up slowly. She was taller than Taeho expected, graceful in a way that reminded him of dancers or flowing water. But there was also something fragile about her, like she might break if handled roughly. "You do not understand," she said, louder now so others could hear. "I am dangerous to your kind. I feed on life force. I am what your people would call a vampire." "Well," Taeho said, still smiling, "I've never met a vampire who warned her victims first. That seems pretty considerate." Several alien security officers were trying to get closer, but they kept stopping as if hitting an invisible wall. Taeho could feel something now, a strange pulling sensation, like something was trying to draw energy from his body. It was uncomfortable but not painful. Nixara saw his slight discomfort and her expression changed to worry. You feel it now. Please, move away before I hurt you. Instead, Tejo took a step closer. Is that the best you've got? I've had headaches. Worse than this. The princess's eyes widened. That is impossible. I am not even trying to restrain myself. The drain should be killing you. Like I said, humans are stubborn. Tejo looked around at all the staring faces. Also, we don't like crowds much when we're trying to have a conversation. How about that coffee? Nixara seemed torn between fascination and terror. I could kill you by accident. I have never learned to control my abilities around other species. Then maybe it's time to learn, Tejo said gently. Besides, if you were going to kill me, wouldn't I be dead already? For the first time in centuries, someone was asking Princess Nixara to have coffee. The simple normalcy of it was more shocking than any weapon. I do not know what coffee is, she admitted. Then you're in for a treat. Ambassador Kethmore finally reached them along with several other officials. Commander Tejo, please step away from her immediately. You are putting yourself and others in danger. With respect, Ambassador, Tejo replied without moving. The only danger I see is a lot of people being rude to someone who seems perfectly polite. She has killed thousands, another alien official said. Her people are parasites who consume life itself. Tejo looked at Nixara's face and saw pain flash across it. Funny, he said. She doesn't look like someone who enjoys killing. She looks like someone who's tired of being blamed for things she can't control. You know nothing about me, Nixara said quietly. But there was no anger in her voice, only sadness. Then tell me, Tejo said, over coffee, in the neutral zone where everyone will feel safer. The neutral zone was a section of the station where no weapons were allowed and all species could interact freely. It had restaurants and shops run by various aliens. Most importantly, it had places where they could sit and talk without crowds staring at them. Nixara looked uncertain. I have not eaten or drunk anything but life energy in over 300 years. I do not know if I can. Only one way to find out. After much argument from officials and worried looks from his own team, Tejo managed to get permission to escort Princess Nixara to the neutral zone. They walked together through corridors that emptied quickly as other beings saw them coming. This is what my life is like, Nixara said as they walked. Everyone runs from me. Everyone fears me. I have not had a conversation with another being in decades. That sounds lonely. Loneliness is a small price to pay if it means others stay safe. They found a small cafe run by a species that looked like friendly blue bears. The owner was nervous but served them anyway. From a safe distance, Tejo ordered 2 cups of human-style coffee, black and strong. When the coffee arrived, Nixara stared at the cup as if it were a puzzle she couldn't solve. Just try a sip, Tejo encouraged. She lifted the cup carefully and took a tiny taste. Her eyes immediately widened with surprise. I can taste it, she whispered. I have not tasted anything in so long. It is... She searched for words. It is bitter and warm, and somehow comforting. That's coffee, Tejo said, sipping his own. Humans drink it when we need to wake up or when we want to feel less alone. Nixara took another sip, larger this time. Why are you doing this? Why risk your life to sit with me? Tejo thought about it. Because you looked like you needed a friend, and because humans have a bad habit of not listening to warnings when we think something is unfair. Unfair? Everyone treating you like a monster without trying to understand you first. That seems unfair to me. For the first time since he had met her, Nixara smiled. It was a sad smile, but real. You are either very brave or very foolish, she said. Probably both, Tejo admitted. Most humans are. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking coffee and watching other aliens give them a wide berth. The energy drain was still there, but Tejo was getting used to it. It was like exercising, tiring but not harmful. Can I ask you something? Tejo said eventually. Yes. Do you want to drain my energy? Or is it something that just happens? Nixara's expression grew dark. It just happens. I have no choice in the matter. My people, we were not always this way. We became parasites to survive, but the cost has been everything that made us who we were. That doesn't sound like your fault. Does it matter? The result is the same. I am what I am. Tejo finished his coffee and leaned back in his chair. Maybe. Or maybe you just haven't found the right way to be what you are yet. Nixara looked at him with something that might have been hope. It was a dangerous emotion for someone who had given up on hope long ago. Over the next few days, Tejo met with Princess Nixara every morning for coffee. Their meetings caused quite a stir among the other delegates, but no one could stop them since they stayed in the neutral zone and Tejo was clearly still alive. Doctor. Sora was fascinated by what was happening. Your body is adapting, she told Tejo after running medical scans. The energy drain is still there, but your cells are producing energy faster to compensate. It's like your body is learning to keep up. Is that normal for humans? Tejo asked. Nothing about this situation is normal, Sora replied. But yes, it fits with human biology. We're incredibly adaptable. We survive by changing to meet challenges. Captain Jinwoo was less pleased. You're taking a huge risk, Commander. What? If she loses control? Then I guess I'll find out what happens, Tejo said. But I don't think she will. She's been in control for centuries. Barely in control, Jinwoo corrected, and only by staying away from everyone. Minji had been studying recordings of their conversations. Her language patterns are interesting, she reported. She speaks like someone who's very old and very educated, but also very lonely. She uses formal words even for simple things, like she's forgotten how to have casual conversations. That morning, when Tejo arrived at the cafe, he found Nixara staring out the viewport at the stars. Good morning, he said, sitting down across from her. Is it good? She asked without turning around. I have lived for 800 years, and I cannot remember the last time I thought a morning was good. 800 years? Tejo was surprised. You look much younger. My people age slowly when we feed properly. Unfortunately, feeding properly means killing others. She finally looked at him. Would you like to know how I became this way? Only if you want to tell me. Nixara was quiet for a moment, then began to speak in a voice like distant music. The Velthari were once a peaceful people. We lived on a beautiful world with crystal cities and floating gardens. We were artists, philosophers, dreamers. We had no weapons because we had no enemies. Their coffee arrived, served by the nervous blue bear alien who had gotten used to their daily visits. What changed? Tejo asked. A plague from space, Nixara continued. It came from a dying star, carried by cosmic radiation. It infected our entire species in a matter of days. The plague changed our biology, made it impossible for us to process normal food or generate our own life energy. She sipped her coffee, a habit she had quickly grown to love. We were dying. All of us. The only way to survive was to take life energy from other beings. At first, we tried to find willing volunteers from other species, but she paused. Taking life energy usually kills the giver. We became murderers to survive. Tejo felt a chill that had nothing to do with the energy drain. That's terrible. It gets worse. The plague made us stronger, faster, more beautiful, but only when we fed on others. We became perfect predators. Other species began to fear us, then hate us, then hunt us. Is that why you're isolated now? Nixara nodded sadly. The Galactic Council allows us to exist because completely destroying us would be genocide. But we are prisoners, really. We can attend meetings and vote on matters that affect us, but we cannot touch, cannot connect, cannot be part of the greater community. And you're the strongest of your people? I am the princess because I am the most dangerous, she said. I can drain life energy faster and from greater distances than any other Velthari. That makes me the most feared, but also the most lonely. Tejo reached across the table and gently touched her hand. The effect was immediate. Energy flowed from him to her like water through a broken dam. But instead of falling over dead, Taeho just gritted his teeth and held on. "Let go," Nixara said urgently. "I cannot control it when there is direct contact." "Then don't control it," Taeho said through clenched teeth. "Take what you need." The energy drain intensified. Taeho felt dizzy and weak, but he also felt something else, a strange sense of connection. For just a moment, he could feel what Nixara was feeling. Centuries of loneliness, guilt, and desperate hunger crashed over him like a wave. But there was something else too. Relief. For the first time in hundreds of years, she was feeding without killing. The energy she took from him was freely given, and somehow that made all the difference. After a few seconds, she pulled her hand away. Both of them were breathing hard. "How are you alive?" she whispered. Taeho looked at his hand. The skin was pale where she had touched him, but it was already returning to normal color. "I don't know, but I'm okay." Dr. Sora's voice came over, his communicator. "Commander, your vital signs just went crazy. Are you all right?" "I'm fine, Sora. Better than fine, actually." And it was true. Despite feeling drained, Taeho also felt more alert and focused than usual. Nixara was staring at him like he was a miracle. "In 800 years, no one has survived direct contact with me. No one." "Maybe that's because no one ever tried to survive it," Taeho suggested. "Maybe they were always too afraid to really try." "Or maybe," she said slowly, "humans are different from other species." Later that day, Dr. Sora ran more tests on Taeho, while Minji interviewed Nixara about Velthari biology. Captain Jinwoo stood guard, still worried about the whole situation. "This is incredible," Sora reported. "Commander, your brain activity is enhanced. Your reaction time is faster. Your memory seems improved. It's like the energy exchange gave you a boost instead of just draining you." "What about the princess?" Taeho asked. Minji looked up from her notes. "She says she feels more balanced, like the hunger that's been driving her for centuries has calmed down. She's not constantly fighting the urge to feed. So it helped." "Both of you?" "It seems that way," Sora said. "But Commander, this is just one test. We don't know the long-term effects." That evening, Taeho found Nixara on the observation deck, watching the stars again. "Regrets?" he asked, joining her. "Many," she said, "but not about today. Today was the first day in centuries that I felt like a person instead of a monster." "You were always a person," Taeho said. "The others just forgot how to see it." Nixara turned to look at him. "Your species is remarkable. Most beings would have run from me. You chose to have coffee with me instead." "Most humans would probably run too," Taeho admitted. "But some of us are too curious for our own good, is he?" "That what this is? Curiosity?" Taeho thought about it. "Maybe at first, but now it's friendship." For the second time since he had known her, Nixara smiled. This time it wasn't sad at all. "I have never had a friend before," she said. "Well," Taeho replied, "you have one now." Neither of them noticed the dark ships moving toward the station from the edge of the system. The Mordak Collective had been watching the humans interact with the Velthari princess, and they had decided that both species were too dangerous to live. The attack came without warning. Taeho was in his quarters reviewing diplomatic reports when the station's alarms began blaring. Red lights flashed in the corridors as emergency announcements echoed through the halls. "All delegates report to secure zones immediately. The station is under attack by hostile forces." Taeho grabbed his communicator and contacted his team. "Sora, Jinwoo, Minji, where are you?" "Conference room 7, came Jinwoo's voice. "We're with the other human delegates. Where are you?" "On my way," Taeho said, but as he ran through the corridors, he thought about Nixara. Where would she go during an emergency? Would anyone even care if she was safe? He changed direction and headed for the neutral zone. The station shook as weapons hit the outer hull. Through the viewports, Taeho could see sleek black ships with red markings, the Mordak Collective. He had heard of them during the briefings. They were a military faction that believed in destroying any species they considered dangerous or impure. He found Nixara in the cafe sitting alone while chaos erupted around her. Even during an emergency, the other aliens avoided her section. "Nixara," he called out, running to her table. She looked up, surprised to see him. "Teho, you should be with your people in the safe zones." "So should you. Come on." "There is no safe zone for me," she said sadly. "The collective ships are broadcasting their intentions. They have come to destroy both the human contamination and the Velthari plague. They consider us equally dangerous." The station shook again, more violently this time. Through the viewport they could see Mordak soldiers in heavy armor boarding the station through breached airlocks. "Then we face this together," Teho said firmly. "You do not understand. The Mordak have energy weapons designed to disrupt life force itself. They are specifically made to kill my people quickly and efficiently. And what about humans? Those weapons will kill you just as easily." Another explosion rocked the station. Emergency barriers began sealing off sections as the Mordak forces advanced through the corridors. "We need to get to my team," Teho said, helping Nixara to her feet. They ran through corridors filled with panicking aliens. The Mordak soldiers were methodical and brutal, stunning anyone who got in their way and searching for specific targets. When they reached Conference Room 7, they found it under attack. Through the transparent aluminum windows, Teho could see his team trapped inside with other delegates while Mordak soldiers tried to break down the reinforced doors. "The barriers will not hold much longer," Nixara observed. As if to prove her point, cracks began appearing in the doorframe. The Mordak weapons were designed to cut through almost anything. "I have to help them," Teho said. "You will die if you try to fight those soldiers with human weapons," Nixara warned him. "Then I'll die trying to save my friends." Nixara was quiet for a moment, watching the desperate situation unfold. Then she made a decision that surprised them both. "No," she said. "You will not die. I will not allow it." Before Teho could ask what she meant, Nixara stepped out into the corridor where the Mordak soldiers could see her. "I am Princess Nixara of the Velthari," she announced in a voice that carried clearly over the noise of battle. "You have come for me. Here I am." The soldiers immediately turned their weapons on her. Energy beams designed to disrupt life force shot toward her from multiple directions. But something incredible happened. Instead of killing her, the energy seemed to make her stronger. Her skin began to glow with inner light and her eyes became like stars. "Impossible," one of the soldiers said through his armor speaker. "The disruption weapons should have killed her instantly." "You made one mistake," Nixara said, and her voice now carried power that made the walls vibrate. "You assumed I would be weakened by feeding on artificial energy instead of life force." She moved faster than anything Teho had ever seen. In seconds, she had disarmed 3 soldiers and thrown them against the walls with enough force to crack their armor. But the battle was not without cost. Each time she used her abilities, each burst of speed or strength drained her further. Teho could see her growing paler and more tired. More soldiers arrived. Nixara fought them with desperate intensity, protecting the conference room where the humans and other delegates were trapped. But there were too many enemies and she was pushing herself beyond her limits. Finally, she collapsed. Teho ran to her side as the remaining Mordak soldiers regrouped for a final attack. "Nixara, are you all right?" She looked up at him with eyes that were losing their glow. "Your species gives more than it takes. I had forgotten what that felt like." "What do you mean?" "When I fed on you, I did not just take energy. I took some of your hope, your determination, your refusal to give up. That is what allowed me to fight." The soldiers were advancing again, weapons ready. "I am too weak to continue," Nixara whispered. "I am sorry I could not save them." Teho looked at his friends trapped in the conference room, then at the approaching soldiers, then at the dying princess who had sacrificed herself trying to protect people who had always feared her. He made a decision that was completely human, in its stubborn refusal to accept defeat. "You're not too weak," he said, taking her hand. "You just need more energy." "Teho, no," she protested weakly. "A full feeding will kill you." "Maybe, but definitely not trying will kill everyone. Besides," he smiled, "humans are really stubborn about dying. Before she could stop him, he pressed both of his hands against her face and opened himself completely to her energy drain. The effect was like lightning. Power flowed from Tejo to Nixara in a torrent that should have killed him instantly. His vision blurred and his knees went weak, but he held on, and something miraculous happened. Instead of just taking his energy, Nixara seemed to absorb his determination, his courage, his absolute refusal to let his friends die. The combination transformed her. She stood up, now glowing with power that was somehow different from before. It was not just Velthari energy, it was human stubbornness made manifest. Impossible, the lead Mordak soldier said. No one can survive a full feeding. You keep using that word, Tejo said, still standing despite being drained. I don't think it means what you think it means. Nixara looked at the soldiers with eyes that held 800 years of loneliness transformed into protective fury. You wanted to destroy me because I am dangerous, she said. Let me show you what dangerous really looks like when it chooses to protect instead of consume. What happened next was not a battle. It was a demonstration of what a Velthari princess could do when she was fighting for someone she cared about instead of just trying to survive. When the corridor was clear and the conference room was safe, Nixara helped Tejo to a chair. He was alive but exhausted. How? She asked in wonder. How did you survive that? Tejo grinned weakly. Told you humans were stubborn. Dr. Sora came running out of the conference room with her medical scanner. Commander, your vital signs are all over the place, but you're stable, more than stable. It's like the energy drain somehow enhanced your body's natural healing abilities. And you, Minji said to Nixara, you're different too. The energy signature we're reading from you isn't purely Velthari anymore. Nixara looked at her hands, still glowing softly with combined energies. I can feel it. The constant hunger, the need to feed. It is gone. Or rather, it is satisfied in a way I never thought possible. What does this mean? Asked Jinwoo, who had been unusually quiet. Tejo and Nixara looked at each other, both understanding that something fundamental had changed between their species. It means, Tejo said slowly, we might have just figured out how to solve a problem that the galaxy has been living with for centuries. 3 days after the Mordak attack, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. The Great Hall was packed with delegates from hundreds of worlds, all wanting to hear about what had happened between the human commander and the Velthari princess. Tejo sat in the human delegation section, feeling stronger than he had ever felt in his life. The energy exchange with Nixara had changed him in ways that Dr. Sora was still trying to understand. His reflexes were faster, his memory was perfect, and he seemed to need less sleep. But more importantly, he felt a sense of connection and purpose that went beyond anything he had experienced before. Nixara sat in her usual isolated section, but something was different. The barrier that had always surrounded her, the one that made other beings afraid to approach, was gone. She still carried power, but it no longer felt threatening. Several alien delegates had actually nodded to her when they entered the hall. Ambassador Kethamore stood to address the council. We are here today to discuss the unprecedented events of 3 days ago, when a human and a Velthari formed what appears to be a symbiotic relationship. Murmurs filled the hall. The word symbiotic was important. It meant both species benefited rather than one feeding on the other. The implications are staggering, Kethamore continued. For the first time in galactic history, a Velthari has fed without killing, and a human has survived direct energy contact not just once but multiple times. A delegate from the Rigel system stood up. This could be a trick. The humans might be using some kind of technology to fake these results. Dr. Sora rose to respond. We have conducted extensive medical examinations on both Commander Tejo and Princess Nixara. The changes in their biology are real and ongoing. The commander's cellular regeneration has increased by 300%, while his cognitive functions have improved across all measurable parameters. And the princess? Asked another delegate. Her energy levels are stable for the first time in centuries. She no longer requires constant feeding to survive. The symbiosis appears to have solved the fundamental problem that has made the Velthari a threat to other species. An old delegate from the core world spoke up. Even if this is real, it only works with one human. What about the rest of the Velthari people? What about the rest of humanity? This was the moment Tai-Ho had been waiting for. He stood up and requested permission to address the council. Honored delegates, he began. 3 months ago, humanity asked to join the galactic community. You welcomed us cautiously, wondering what we could contribute to a galaxy that already had everything. He gestured toward Nixara. I think we have our answer. Humans are not the strongest species or the smartest or the most advanced, but we have one quality that seems to be rare in the galaxy. We are willing to try connecting with others, even when it seems dangerous or impossible. The hall was completely quiet now. The Velthari have been isolated for centuries because they were forced to become predators to survive. But what if they don't have to be predators anymore? What if they can become partners instead? Tai-Ho activated a holographic display showing data that his team had compiled. Our analysis suggests that multiple human volunteers working together could sustain an entire Velthari community through willing energy exchange. In return, humans would gain enhanced abilities and extended lifespans. Both species become more than they were separately. An angry voice interrupted him. You are asking us to trust vampires who have killed millions. Before Tai-Ho could respond, Princess Nixara stood up. The hall fell silent again. She had not addressed the council in over 200 years. Honored delegates, she said in her musical voice, I understand your fear. For 800 years, I have lived with the knowledge that my very existence threatened others. I have carried the guilt of every life my people have taken, every civilization we have consumed. She walked slowly toward the center of the hall, and for the first time in centuries, other delegates did not back away from her. But this human showed me something I had forgotten. He saw a person where everyone else saw a monster. He offered friendship where others offered only fear. And in doing so, he gave me hope for the first time in centuries. She stopped in front of the main podium. I cannot undo the harm my people have caused, but I can offer you this, a chance for the Velthari to become contributors to galactic society instead of parasites upon it. The hall erupted in discussion. Delegates argued in dozens of languages while translators worked frantically to keep up. Finally, Ambassador Kethamore called for order. Princess Nixara, are you proposing a formal alliance between humans and Velthari? I am proposing something more radical, she replied. I am proposing that we learn from humanity's example. They saw enemies and chose to see potential friends. They faced the unknown and chose understanding over fear. She looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of delegates who had avoided her gaze for centuries. If we are to build a galaxy where all species can thrive, we must be willing to transform our relationships with each other. The humans have shown us that even the most impossible connections can become sources of strength. Over the following weeks, the proposal was debated endlessly. Some species were completely opposed to any cooperation with the Velthari. Others were intrigued by the possibilities. But gradually, support began to build. The breakthrough came when volunteers from several species, not just humans, agreed to attempt controlled symbiosis with Velthari volunteers under careful medical supervision. The results were not always as dramatic as what had happened between Tai-Ho and Nixara, but they were consistently positive. The Altarians, who already had strong psychic abilities, found they could share energy with Velthari without any negative effects. The crystalline Vega dwellers discovered that Velthari energy feeding actually helped them regulate their internal temperature. Even the cautious Centaurians admitted that limited cooperation might be beneficial. 6 months later, Tai-Ho stood on the observation deck of New Harmony Station, the first joint human-Velthari research facility. Through the viewport, he could see ships from dozens of worlds arriving for the signing of what was being called the Symbiosis Accords. Hard to, believe how much has changed, said Dr. Sora, joining him at the viewport. She now served as the head of interspecies medical research, studying the effects of various forms of symbiosis. Any regrets? Asked Captain Jinwoo. He had been promoted to head of security for the new station and had become something of an expert on Velthari culture. None, Tejo replied, though I never expected that having coffee with someone would lead to rewriting galactic politics. The best changes usually start with small gestures, said Minji. She had become the chief translator for human Velthari communications and was working on the first comprehensive guide to Velthari culture. Nixara approached them, moving with the fluid grace that had once been a sign of her predatory nature, but now seemed simply elegant. She had changed too over the past months. The sadness that had always shadowed her features was gone, replaced by something that looked like peace. The signing ceremony is about to begin, she told them. Are you ready? Are you? Tejo asked. She smiled, something she did often now. I never thought I would live to see my people welcomed anywhere. Today we become the first Velthari to be offered full membership in a galactic alliance. They walked together to the main hall where delegates from 47 worlds waited to sign the Symbiosis Accords. The document established protocols for safe energy sharing, created joint research programs, and most importantly, offered the Velthari a path to redemption through service to the galactic community. As Tejo watched Nixara sign the accords, on behalf of her people he reflected on how it had all started, with a simple decision to choose connection over fear. Later that evening, after the ceremonies were complete and the delegates had departed, Tejo and Nixara sat in the station's cafe, sharing a cup of coffee just like they had months ago on Nexus 7. So what happens now? Tejo asked. Now we build something new. Nixara replied. Humans and Velthari working together, other species joining when they are ready. A galaxy where being different is seen as an opportunity instead of a threat. That's going to take a lot of work. Yes, but we have time. Thanks to our partnership, I will live for thousands of years, and you will live for hundreds. We can afford to be patient. Tejo smiled and raised his coffee cup in a toast. To patience, partnership, and the power of choosing connection over fear. Nixara raised her cup as well. And to stubborn humans who don't listen to warnings. They clinked their cups together and looked out at the stars where ships from dozens of worlds traveled freely, carrying the news of what was possible when species chose to see potential friends instead of inevitable enemies. In the end, the galaxy was changed not by weapons or threats, but by one human who decided to lean in and whisper to someone who needed a friend. It was, Ambassador Kethmore later wrote in his memoirs, the most human thing he had ever witnessed, and perhaps the most important.